Welcome back to more Let's Play Metroid Prime. Last time we returned here to the Chozo Ruins and managed to find the Ice Beam. A very, very nice upgrade. That is going to help us backtrack to Phendrana Drifts again. How many times is that now that we've went from the Chozo Ruins or Talon Overworld back to Phendrana, back to Talon Overworld / Chozo Ruins, back to Phendrana? I feel that just keeps happening. And luckily, there won't be too much more of that, but it will continue to happen throughout the game, so buckle up. And to be fair, in any Metroid game, you're more than likely to go back to pretty much every location after you get any little item. So, it's par for the course. Still, I do always love the feeling you get when exploring in a Metroid game. It always feels so nice. Ow. These are the hurdy worms. And although bombs will get rid of them, frankly, I'd much rather just get through them and call it a day. And hey, here's where that water would have taken us. Remember the tutorial? Well, turns out it's, well, I would say right in front of us, but frankly, I'm trying to get rid of these guys. And as you can see, by using the Ice Beam, we can get rid of them very easily. But, like I was saying, the tutorial, it's right there. Turns out, after it exploded, it crashed here on Talon 4. And while we can explore some of it, also, hello Space Pirate, irregular life signs detected, massive internal injuries due to concussive trauma. And what about you? Yeah, same thing. But, as I was saying, while we can explore some of the sunken frigate, and let me tell you, it does have amazing music, we can't do everything there right now. So I would consider this a bit of a red herring, which is a little mean. Now, if you can see, there's a missile upgrade right here. If you time your jump well, no, and I didn't, you can actually get that right now, but we'll be back later once we have the ability to move a bit easier in water. So, as cool as it would be to do this now, I would much rather come back here later and get all of the items later as opposed to just struggling now. What's this? This crate appears to be the same type of container found on the Space Pirate research frigate. The material seeping out from the ruptured metal is highly toxic. Analysis indicates that this may be the Phazon compound the Space Pirates were using in their biological experiments. So yeah, get close to it. The game warns you rather promptly. Phazon hurts, and it is in no way, shape, or form a good thing. Still, now that you know what it looks like, a very pretty blue, admittedly, stay away from it. Not, of course, to be confused with that blue. That's bioluminescent moss, or something like that. Point is, one blue is bad, the other blue is good. So, at this point, we need to go back down to Phendrana. Now, luckily, because we have all these nifty upgrades, including the Ice Beam, we can simply come right back over this way, where we came up from Magmore, and take that route down. This should save us a good amount of time. And as you can see, the Ice Beam, for being as slow as it is incredibly powerful. Though, as you may have noted when I fought the Jet Pirates there, what it makes up for in power, it loses in both fire rate, accuracy, and shot speed. So, it's a good weapon up close. I almost consider it this game's shotgun equivalent, to be honest. Which is a bit weird. Still, it's quite good when it feels good, but quite bad when it is bad. So, keep it in mind. Otherwise, seeing as it's specifically mentioned, it's really good against fire-based enemies, this is going to make Magmoor Cavern a breeze to backtrack through. Trust me. Which, admittedly, is kind of a shame. I really like hearing the music while we're here. And otherwise, let's see. What is our best way to get to Phendrana? Phendrana Drifts north. Not a horrid way to get there. But is it faster to go this way? My money is on... I want to say yes, because that's where we went from Thardis. So that's actually going to be better. I just want to make sure I have my directions correct. Yeah, because here we have our lovely spider ball track, which will help us get back in no time. I remember as a kid, rather than using the spider ball, I did my best to try to damage boost through the magma down there. And man, was that not a good time. Now, one thing is with the ice beam, you can freeze these flamethrowers. It's not the most useful thing, but it's at least something you can do. It's also pretty accurate to where you can just kind of blast them as you're walking through and save yourself a couple ticks of damage. So I would recommend using it. Ow. I knew I was going to be slightly short on that jump. Now, unfortunately, with backtracking, it comes all of the beam switching. That is one thing that isn't the most fun in this game, is that you're going to be switching beams a lot in the game. Not that it's the worst thing, but it's still kind of annoying, especially when you know you have a beam that's technically more powerful than you could be using. There's another great example of why the wave beam and even the power beam might be a bit better than the ice beam in some areas. But you get the idea. For enemies like the jet pirates here, if you can manage to land a shot and freeze them, as I'm failing to do, it'll save your missile count, which is namely what I would use the ice beam for. It basically just helps you save up on missiles. I want to say, even the charge shot is a little slow on the weapon. So while it is powerful, and it does freeze enemies for longer, it's still just as inaccurate. So it might be better to use quicker shots rather than doing a charge shot and missing entirely with it. Still, up close, it's a reliable weapon that is darn good. So even if you may not enjoy it incredibly right away, it does have its uses, and I would make sure to give it a shot. Otherwise, not too bad of a backtrack. And ironically, although the ice beam is useful, it really didn't do much for the enemies, did it? In fact, it's kind of not very effective against them because most of the enemies you find there are quick moving. A bit ironic, but by coming back here, we find what we're here for immediately, which is rather nice. Man, oh, I hate them for putting that energy tank there. Also, ironically, as soon as you use it, they want you to put it away. Look, I couldn't tell you why. It's just how it works. Now, as we can see, we're going to need pretty much exclusively the wave beam, which, you know what? Fair enough. It's a darn good weapon. And if you notice here, this is a shortcut back to the research core, which you might be wondering, well, why would you ever want that? If you remember that area where all the heat was that we needed, or well, the meltable ice was that we needed to melt, that is what that shortcut there is for. So, useful to keep in mind for later. Otherwise, let's keep on going here. And hello, Ice Beetle. Now, as funny as it would be to try to use the ice beam on the Ice Beetle, you might find it's not the most effective weapon. What the heck are you? Well, you're a new creature. Morphology, glider. Docile, airborne creatures with unusual magnetic properties. Gliders live a relatively peaceful existence. I don't know why I tripped up on relatively there. They have a magnetic signature attuned to common grapple beam technology. The sport of glider riding involves using a grapple to attach to a glider, then staying on it as long as possible. And, wouldn't you know, although we have a docile enemy, we have a new actual enemy. Morphology, Hunter Metroid, Adolescent Metroid. Energy siphon tentacles increase its threat level. As Metroids develop, they become more efficient predators. An energy-draining tentacle allows them to attack at a distance. Quick to anger, a Hunter Metroid will charge troublesome prey and attempt to ram them into submission. Cold-based attacks are still quite effective against these creatures, though. So although they equip you with the Wave Beam, one shot of the Ice Beam and one missile will pretty much instantly take out almost any Metroid in the game. Pretty much. There are exceptions, which is why I said pretty much, but you get the idea. And while I did just pan our camera down to a missile there, it's under a thick sheet of ice that we won't be able to do anything about for a fair minute. So, let's keep on moving. And hey, a nice little save room. Don't mind if I do. I could use a nice little energy recharge. And if you note the orange bits on the wall, there is missable lore here. All Metroids destined for Phazon ranges in the mines must pass inspection. Temperature-affiliated behavioral index for Metroids is available at all research terminals. Access code LIF-22. Again, I hate how space pirates word their things, but it does technically get the message out, even if I hate it. Still, with each little area here, there's a, what is it? Is it stalactite or stalagmite? I always forget which is which. I know one's on the ceiling, one's on the floor. Anyways, point is, you knock it down, and it opens up a new way for you to go. Very useful. Before you even move, hit you with the Ice Beam, get rid of you, and then 2 missiles for 2 enemies? Not a bad deal. Like I've said before, although the Ice Beam is rather slow and inaccurate, man, is it powerful. It also looks like we can't really do much this way, huh? Well, for one of the first times in the game, it's time to go deep sea diving and meet an enemy that terrified me as a child. These are gel zaps, aquatic predator made of electrically bound skeletal halves. The gel zap's brain is located in the upper half of its body, while the heart and digestive tract occupy the lower half. Linked only by electrical impulses, the two halves somehow function effectively enough to launch the gel zap to the top of Talon 4's aquatic food chain. These things terrified me as a child. I don't like how they just sit there doing nothing until you get close to them. And once you do get close, they start to move, opening up their maw, and then admittedly, they're pretty easy to defeat. But if you couldn't tell, when they open up their mouths like that, they electrically pull you in. And man, did that always terrify me as a kid. I hated those enemies. It didn't help that there was a very similar, faster, and larger moving enemy in the sequel to this game, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. I hated those things. And frankly, maybe you guys do too. Point is, they're not really all that hard or that bad to deal with, but something about them just always, I never liked them at all. Admittedly, that felt so satisfying. But yeah, they are far from my favorite enemy, both in terms of design and how you fight them. Still, they're at least easy enough, so although they traumatized childhood me, current me handles them pretty effectively. At least I'd say. Point is, it's just a very weird niche enemy that I don't know why it terrified me so much as a kid, but something about him just was scary. I mean, obviously now I really don't mind them, they're not all that bad, but still annoying. Also, very pretty crystal. In here, we have another new enemy. Morphology, Aqua Reaper. Powerful aquatic tentacle, part of a submerged organism. Similar in nature to the surface-based Reaper vine, the aquatic Reaper has adapted to a liquid environment. It shares the poor vision of its rock-dwelling cousin, relying on a crude sonar sense to seek prey. Unhindered by water, the Aqua Reaper has considerable speed and strength. Admittedly, they're really not that bad. You kind of just shoot them once and that's all there is to it. They'll reappear like normal Reapers, but really, they're not that bad. And one thing I will point out once we're done in this room is that the name of this room spoils something really important that we're about to get, which you wouldn't think we're going to get something as important as we are in an inconspicuous room like this. But if you remember that symbol there, last time it was the Varia suit. This time, it's the gravity suit. In most other Metroids, they make you work for this suit. So it's really weird that they just sort of give it to you in this game. Frankly, I am A-okay with it. And admittedly, I love the purple and blue that it has. Gravity suit acquired. Movement in liquid environments is no longer hindered. Additional data has been downloaded. Oh, yes. The gravity suit is such an extremely useful item. The gravity suit eliminates the effects of liquid on movement. Samus notes, this modification improves your defensive shielding. The gravity suit allows for improved movement in liquid environments, but does not reduce damage delivered when exposed to hazardous fluids. Visor modifications in the gravity suit make it easier to see underwater. So not only are you now more defensive, you're now just as mobile underwater as you are above ground, and you can see even easier. This has got to be one of the best upgrades in the game. Not only do you now take even less damage, you can move completely freely in any environment, and you can look even better. Both literally in the water, and in terms of your armor into Morph Ball. This is probably one of my absolute favorite color schemes. The blue and purple, I think, look so good. What doesn't look good is that pesky missile up there. This item rests on a ledge that appears to be too high to access by jumping. And wouldn't you know, the ice of this stalactite contains many different types of mineral deposits. Also, thank you game for answering my question. It's stalactite, not stalagmite. One of the minerals detected in the ice structure appears to be a volatile form of volcanic rock. This rock makes the formation incredibly strong against tremors and concussive blasts, but it will become unstable if heat is introduced. So yet another thing that we are going to need heat for. The game loves to do this. And let me tell you, we're going to be coming back here even later than when we get said heat ability. You'll see why. It's really mean. But, at the very least, a lot of the items here in Phendrana are really useful, and you'll be able to come get them almost all once you have a certain upgrade later in the game. So with that in mind, coming back is going to net you a ton of goodies. In fact, I want to say the majority of the items in this game are actually in Phendrana, which, to be fair, with how many times we have come back here, probably isn't that hard to believe. And if you notice, returning back to this room, which at this point, we've pretty much done just about everything we can do here for now. Really, it was straight up come here to get the gravity suit. And now that we've done that, we can continue on to the sunken frigate. I feel it really is kind of annoying again that they do that, where hey, go back to one area, grab one item, backtrack all the way again to get another one. But it does extend the game's length, and frankly, if they didn't do that, this game would probably be like 3 hours long. I'm not even kidding. Which, for some, would, I'm sure, be fine. For me, though, as someone who loves exploring this game's locales and hearing the awesome music, that really would be a shame, wouldn't it? Which, speaking of, I love this song. It's so good. Otherwise, let's look here. I believe we have just about everything we can get in these areas for now. Couldn't go higher in there. So we could go back to the research station. Frankly, there's really not much there for us. So I guess at this point, back to Magmore and then on to the sunken frigate we go. Feels a little strange, but, well, it's just what the game ordered. Also, no. Not that way. We need to go this way. It is very easy to get turned around in this game, admittedly. Man, look how darn good we look. Again, the purple and like the cyan blue, I always thought was such an awesome color combination. It's gotta be up there as one of my favorites. Otherwise, getting back shouldn't be all that tough. Especially seeing as we have improved defensive shielding. Honestly, I think that's the unsung hero of the gravity suit, is it saves you so much damage. Otherwise, at this point, back down we go. Because now that we have the ability to traverse water, the world's pretty much our oyster. Now, interestingly, because we have the gravity suit, we can move through more than just water unimpeded. That includes things like magma and acid if we found it. Though, because it still deals damage and there's that initial period of you entering, it does still feel a little slow. So, yes, it is annoying, but hey, what are you gonna do? Also, really, you know, I don't even need to fight you guys. You can just leave. Which, frankly, at this point in the game, this is honestly probably what we're going to be doing with most of the backtracking. It's just walking past the enemy and leaving. A lot of them really just aren't worth fighting. Which, to be fair, isn't a bad thing. If anything, saves you time. So here, just to demonstrate, as you can see, you aren't slowed that much still in magma. You still move pretty quick. But because you're taking damage, it feels like you're still moving pretty slow in it. So, effectively, yes, you do move quicker in it, but it still feels like you move slow. So, again, I wouldn't recommend jumping in and just going for a swim like I'm about to do. But technically, it's not nearly as damaging as it used to be, just because you'll spend much less time in there if you happen to fall in. It also helps in the fact that you can jump out of it much easier than you ever could before. So, there are benefits to this, even beyond just reducing damage and, being able to see underwater better. Turns out, moving in liquids really is helpful. This also now means there are other items we can gain in places we've seen before too. But, like I said, at this point, let's just go back to the frigate and call it good. Because frankly, that place has been through some things, most of which you should remember. After all, the first few episodes were there. But with it now being submerged underwater, turns out a couple things may have gotten loose, as well as the actual structure of the area is probably a bit different than you remember, especially because it's underwater. There's going to be new challenges there that you may not have expected, which honestly is kind of cool. I like that it's a familiar locale that you should remember, and then you explore again later with more upgrades. It's really neat. And don't you worry, we'll be there before long. Luckily, this trip to Phendrana is much quicker than its predecessors, because again, you have plenty of upgrades, which make going back and forth way quicker. If anything, hopefully the time between areas really starts to show. And luckily, it's not like we're just going back and forth and grabbing one little missile expansion or one energy tank or something comparatively insignificant. We're getting suit upgrades, visors, beams, all sorts of things that are honestly more than worth the time we spent to go get them. So frankly, while I do complain a bit about the backtracking, namely just the fact you're going back and forth into the same two areas for pretty much the entire game, it does at least feel good, and they make sure it's worth your while. They're not just wasting your time, because again, every time we've gone somewhere, we've generally gotten something really useful, as well as several expansions and other upgrades along the way, which is really nice. Huh, that was kind of rude. Come on, open up. Open up, pal. There you go. Yeah, so now, rather than trying again and again and again, which I could have done earlier, if I waited a few seconds and came back now, I can simply get that missile now and not have to worry. And, seeing as we have the gravity suit, there are now gel zaps in this water. I remember those guys very, I was going to say fondly, but, well, it's quite the opposite. I hated that they were in that pond now. Because originally, had you come here earlier in the game when you first could have gone here, the water was clear. There weren't enemies. And so, it's kind of sad that there are now. Also, it is rather dark in this room. So, well, frankly, this doesn't really make it all that much easier to see now, does it? Still, good idea. And say hello to one of my favorite songs in the game. Admittedly, the song is more coming up, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't talking over this little intro bit. Because it's kind of cool how it sounds all alien, you know? And here we have a door that has no power. So again, using our handy visor, we can identify where power nodes are. And of course, explosive gel zaps. But, as we get deeper on in, once the music changes... Also, are you guys new? Oh, you are! Hey. New creature. Morphology, Talon Crab. Crustacean native of Talon 4. Hard-shelled swarm life form. Once harvested for food, exposure to Phazon has seen this practice diminish. Creatures are timid and harmless alone, but can be a problem when traveling in swarms. So yeah, kinda cute that, there are crabs in Metroid. Admittedly, there's actually quite a few crabs, come to think of it. Anyways, cool to see them. And here's one of my favorite songs. As well as another annoying enemy. Morphology Aqua Pirate. Space pirates with exoskeletons modified for underwater use. Using modified thruster packs and gravity suit technology, the space pirates have armor suits for use in liquid environments. Thermal tracking is still very useful against these units, as the pirate engineers have yet to eliminate the thruster pack's high heat signature. So the game is basically recommending, hey, you can use, this for them. But, I never really thought it was all that worth using, because frankly, I can see them just fine. Notably, they are quite annoying still. What's not annoying is this phenomenal song. The piano and everything else about it is just so nice to listen to. I've always loved it. Also, what the game I feel is trying to hint at, more than saying, hey, you can target them with this, is the fact that there are several things we need to shoot here with our wave beam. And as you can see, this is the room where we fought the Parasite Queen. It's been repurposed into a underwater dungeon, which honestly, I think is a really cool way to reuse an area like this. And plus, it helps that the music is so darn good. There we go. To open up a puzzle we didn't even know we were doing. And honestly, I'll probably continue to need the wave beam. Yeah, if you remember this room, this is where our save point was. Which, frankly, I think is a great place to end the episode. Next time we play Metroid Prime, we'll continue to explore the frigate once more, but this time underwater. As always, I'm Brad. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.